Hi everyone! Today I wanted to share a few cards that I made with the Back on Your Feet stamp set. I love this set because it's really good for whenever you have someone who's just not feeling quite right. And you've got the cute little turtle and a sloth and a giraffe, and it's just really a fun little stamp set to have in your collection. And I thought I would share these cards because it's a little technique to use paper punches or die cut pieces to make a background for your cards, and it just can be a fun way to use up scraps and just add some interest to your backgrounds. So I thought I would share a few with you. The turtle card is almost an exact copy from the catalog, pretty close. I changed it up a little bit. And then the giraffe, I just looked at my punches and I thought that this tailored tag punch would be an interesting background for a giraffe. And then the sloth, I've put him up in kind of a little tree with some leaf backgrounds. So I thought we'd make these three little cards today. And I have some others to show you that also use punched shapes. So here's a way to use the heart punch to make a little background, flipping your hearts back and forth, kind of fun. And this is the cute little Hey Birthday Chick stamp set, and you've got that same tailored tag punch kind of adding a little background to this card. And this one is it's a copy right out of the catalog, just changed the colors a little bit, and this is using the oval punch. And the oval punch itself has two layers, two sizes of ovals right there in one punch. So you're going to want to take a look at that punch. Let me show you. It's got a little scallopy punched oval and then the regular slightly smaller smooth oval, so that's a fun one. And you can do this with just about anything, circles, squares. Look at your punches and have some fun creating some backgrounds. I have a group on Facebook called Beth's Paper Cuts Idea Sharing Group, and on there I'm going to be sharing these cards, but also you can share what kind of punch backgrounds that you've created and see what other people have created. I'm trying to get people to share their ideas on that group, and so I'm not the only one that posts there, so you can post as well. And anyway, I want to show you how to make these three cards. We're going to color with Stampin' Blends, and we're going to do some backgrounds. So I thought I would start with the little turtle. Now I'm going to use Stampin' Blend, so that means I need to make sure to use a non-alcohol based black. So I'm using Memento because blends blend. So if you were to use an alcohol based black, then your Stampin' Blends would kind of fuzz out into that as well. It'd all blend together. So I've got this little turtle, and I'm going to use Old Olive and a Mossy Meadow for his body, and then the shell I'm using kind of a variety of browns. I've got the new Cinnamon Cider. I'm also going to grab the bronze and the light crumb cake, or I'm sorry, dark crumb cake. So for the turtle's body, you've got light and dark Old Olive here, and I'm not positive I'm going to use the Mossy Meadow, but I might if I want to add some darkness. But what I'm going to do is kind of highlight the little sections of his shell by going along the little lines here. And I'm also going to look at how the image was drawn, and you can add shadows. They kind of tell you where the shadows go with all these little hash marks. So I'm going to add some little darker Old Olive along there under his chin. Now this image is pretty small. If it was a really large image, you'd want to work in small sections. And now I'm going over it with the light Old Olive. I'm making sure to go over the areas where I added the dark old olive a couple of times just to kind of fuzz out that strong line between dark and light. Okay, so I think I'm not going to use the Mossy Meadow. And then for the shell, I started by, again, sometimes I like to start with light colors and then go dark. For some reason on this one, I wanted to start dark and then go light. So I'm using cinnamon cider, and I'm going to start with the dark again. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to see where they kind of put the highlights, the artist who drew this turtle, and add the dark right there. And then I'm going to go back in with the light and kind of blend it out a little bit. Now in some colors, the contrast between light and dark is really strong. On the cinnamon cider, I don't think it is that strong, so I'm kind of going to go over, and that's why I grabbed the bronze, just because I wanted to add even just a little bit more color, just a tiny bit. And then I'm just using that dark crumb cake to add just a little bit of background to the shell so that the little bits in between the scales, I guess, what do you call those, plates? Scales? I'm not sure. Have a color as well. And maybe a little bit of gray granite on the bottom to kind of give them a shadow. Right, there is our little tortoise turtle, whatever he is. And then we're going to use some bumblebee. I really like this new color, it's really fun. So I've got my bumblebee base, and I've got some strips of Designer Series paper that have bumblebee as the main color. And this is actually from the Four Season Floral. I forget exactly what it's called. Flower for Every Season. I was close. So that is what this is from. And then for my punched background, I'm going to use the postage, rectangle postage stamp punch. And I like to use up my scraps. So I've got a little bin of scraps in here. Let's see. Oh, I pulled one out already. I think I only need about 4 or 5. And when I first did it, I did not sponge my shapes. I just left them as is. And I think I'm going to add some sponging this time just because I want them to really show up. So I'm going to grab a sponge and my bumblebee ink. And I'll fast forward so you don't have to watch me. Okay, to put this down, I just placed these little postage punch pieces, kind of gave myself a strip of adhesive and just kind of went back and forth, a little up, a little down. Okay, I was thinking about adding a little piece here, but I don't think you'll see it anyway, like a little tiny bit, but it's going to get covered by the strip. Okay, and then I'm going to stamp my little greeting, hope you're back on your feet soon. Super cute. Okay, so I've got my little background here, and then some fun little ribbon. I'm just going to weave it behind the turtle. So to do that, I kind of like to give myself some adhesive. Now before I cut it, I'm going to make sure it goes past. It does. You could have went one side. I could have, not you. I could have. I could have went one side smaller with the stitch shapes die on this one, but it's okay. And then I'm going to put some dimensionals behind my little turtle, tortoise. Is it a turtle? Is it a tortoise? Okay, and then on the inside, just a little piece of Whisper White, and you can write your little greeting in there. And I like to, when I'm cutting designer series paper, I always end up with these little strips. I like to just put them down. I just don't want to throw them away, so I think, you know what, it'll be a nice little edge for the inside if I've got them. All kinds of fun things you can do with these little strips. Sometimes I stick them all together and punch things out. All right, there is the cute little hope you're back on your feet soon. Okay, let's do the sloth. I think the sloth is super fun, and coloring the sloth is a little tricky. I wasn't sure exactly what color sloths are. They're kind of grayish brown, so we're going to go with that grayish brown idea. Again, I'm using a stitched shape die cut here, and if you don't have that, you can use a regular circle punch. I just love that stitch detail. Isn't he fun? Okay, so for this one, like I said, I'm going with the browns. I have gray for the bandage. So I'm using granite gray, and then I've got the crumb cakes and the soft suedes for the body of the sloth. So let's do the bandage. I've got this dark gray granite, and again I'm going to go where the artist drew these little hash marks, and I'm going to add the dark gray granite. And then with the light gray granite, I'm just going to kind of blend them out, but I don't want to color the whole thing, and I'm going to leave it a lot of white showing. Okay. All right, and then for the body, I took the soft suede and I just kind of speckled him a little bit. Just giving him little bits of darks and lights, just kind of going where the little hair marks are across his back and just adding little hash marks, little dots of color. I did a few in the dark soft suede, but not a lot, because sloths seem to be a little bit on the lighter side when I looked at them online anyway. Alright, and then I took the dark crumb cake. And kind of went, oops. I didn't mean to go quite so heavy right there. We just kind of gave it a little more shade on the areas like his underbelly. Just a little bit more color. And then here I used the dark crumb cake to kind of color his mask area a little bit. Okay, and then lastly I took the light crumb cake and just kind of went over most of him, but I still left some white areas. I just kind of left him kind of speckly. And then for the main face, I just kind of did some highlights. Leaving a lot of white space for that sloth. It's kind of fun. All right, I'm gonna leave him as is. Now the tree, I wanted to be a different brown, so I went ahead and grabbed my cinnamon cider. Oh, and again, I thought that the cinnamon cider light and dark, the difference wasn't all that huge. So I added just a little more color with the dark soft suede. And then because I already had Old Olive out, I went ahead and did my leaves. Super fun little sloth. Now I really like this sigh. So let me stamp that. I always have these little strips, don't you? These little tiny strips of paper. I'm gonna let that sit for a bit. I must have put it right in a newly inked area. Okay, so now I wanted to, on this one I didn't sponge the leaves. I left them alone, and I decided I want to try and sponge the leaves on this one, and I already cut them out. They're from the Stitched Leaves dies, which are one of my favorites. I was so glad they're carrying over. They come with all kinds of fun leaf shapes, and big and small, and they have an outline and then an inside stitched piece you can use. Really fun. I've already cut them out, so see the cute little stitch detail. So let's sponge those. Okay, now to assemble this card, it's pretty much like the first one. We're going to use a piece of Old Olive, and I'm going to go ahead and start gluing down the leaves. Now I think it looks best when some of them hang off the edges, so don't be afraid to let them hang off the edges, and then we're going to cut them at the end. I'm going to let those dry and go ahead and cut out my little sigh here. Okay. Now this time I'm using some Designer Series paper in Old Olive. This is from the Brights collection pack, the 6x6 packs where you get the entire color family in tone-on-tone papers. I love those. So great when you need a background paper, but nothing quite works. You've got something in every color. And then I'm using this Old Olive ribbon. It's part of a combo pack that comes with Old Olive and Calypso Coral. Both are which colors that I use constantly. So that is a good combo pack for me. Well, I'm running out of Old Olive. I think I have enough to tie a little bow. All right, so let's go ahead and stick that down. Now on this I want to make sure that I get really close to that edge, so I'm going to go ahead and put it right on the cardstock, but then I'm also going to go ahead and add it. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and clip those edges. So just turn it over and you can kind of see where they need to be clipped, or you can actually get out your paper trimmer and run it along there. The only time with this little leaf, the little stems, sometimes they get caught in the paper trimmer because they're so tiny, so it's easy to just clip them with my paper snips here. Oop, I forgot this one up top. All right, and then we're going to stick our little sloth amongst the leaves. I'm going to go ahead and add the sigh. And then on the inside here, I'm going to put, hope things get better soon. I got this stamp set out because I have one of my teammates is dealing with some shoulder pain. And, you know, obviously not all the animals necessarily have bandages on their shoulders, right? They've got, oh, did I run out? They've got, you know, the turtle's just upside down, and the sloth has a little wrist issue or an arm issue. The giraffe is all tied in knots. But I don't think you need to worry about it being exactly the issue that you have at hand. The turtle on its feet, back on your feet soon, you know, that's okay. Doesn't mean that I have to have a broken leg. Doesn't mean that the sloth has a broken arm. It's just kind of showing that you're thinking of them in their time of bleh. So, and then when I make one card for something like this, you know, it's always fun to make birthday cards, but when you need a card for someone who's sick and you don't have one, you want to get it out right away. And, you know, so it's nice when you're going to make one, just make a bunch. And that way you've got a little stash of these cards to have on hand. So when you have a sick friend, you can send it off. So hopefully she'll like that. A little fun little pick-me-up. So last is the giraffe. And I already colored the giraffe because I thought I was doing a lot of coloring. And maybe you would be tired of me coloring. I'm not sure I left myself space for the this is not good though. Let's see. Yeah, I kind of did. All right, let's see if we can get it in there and not ruin my giraffe. I did. Whew. Okay, So now for this one, you need kind of a lot of these little tailored tag punch. I think I used 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 full ones, but then you kind of can use your scraps here on the edge. So I had a couple left over, so I have some scraps. And then I'm going to find a piece here. You know what's fun too is you can use this part because you might need that for the top or the bottom. So go ahead and use up all your paper. Okay, let's see if we have enough. While I've got you, I want to talk about the sponges too. The sponges that Stampin' Up! Sells come in they're round, they're not little wedges. And they come like this, and you get 3 of them in a pack, and then I kind of cut them into 6 wedges, and then I find just a little piece of paper, a little scrap, and you can use any punch and fold it in half, or you can just use a little scrap, something to hold on to so my fingers don't get all dirty. And then I kind of use the same one for browns and the same one for greens. You can have one for every color if you wanted to, but I don't think that's super necessary. I just use one for my browns, and you can use a little piece of scrap paper to see if you've got another color ink on there that you want to get off, but I think this is good. So I will speed it up when I am sponging. Okay, now as you can see, my sponge was starting to come apart a little bit. This is an old sponge. Every once in a while I find myself a new one, but that one's got to be, I can't even imagine how old it is, because look at this brad. I mean, it's a little diamond shaped brad. Those are probably from a Stampin' Up! Catalog 10 years ago or so. So that's a very old sponge. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and layer these little pieces. And my little rule of thumb here is, because I know that I'm never going to get a perfect row, you know, it's one side is, if I line up one side perfect, the other side's going to hang off. So rather than have one side always line up nicely and the other side not, I intentionally want to skew it so that neither side's going to line up perfectly. Does that make sense? So I'm going to start with these two. Oh, also I know how high my little band here is going to be, so I want to make sure that these dip below that. Now for this one, I wanted there to be a space between. I'm kind of trying to suggest the spots on the back of a giraffe, so that, you know, I want to have a little space between. Although this would have been good for the tortoise shell also. Something like this, you could have turned it this way and had a little tortoise shell with green. That would have been good. So, ideas. I've also done cards where I've butt these up perfectly, and you can have like a little pattern where they're perfectly touched. That's kind of the fun thing about this particular punch, is that you can do that. You can make a solid pattern, different colors. You can make it look like a quilt pattern almost. Okay, I need another one. Okay, now you have to decide how picky you're going to get. I am going to get picky. I'm going to go ahead and put that itty bitty little triangle there, because sometimes I get a little carried away, but that's okay. What about that side though? Gotta do it. Could have planned it a little better so I didn't have these little tiny pieces. Like on this one, my pieces are bigger. That would have been better. That one's probably not going to stay. I'm going to use some liquid glue on that to make it stay. Okay, so now I've got my little giraffe pattern. And I'm just going to add, and this one is also from that For Flowers for Every Season Designer Series paper. It's fun. It's got a lot of the in colors. So the cinnamon cider is a new color, and so it has a lot of those in it. And the one side has florals, and the other side has some patterns, and that's kind of nice. I like that. Sometimes you have a lot of floral paper left over, and it's nice when the back is something a little more neutral. Okay, so for this one, I'm going to go with cinnamon cider ribbon, and I'm going all the way to the edge on this one. Sometimes I like to leave, make a card that's got a matte piece or a second layer that's slightly in from the outside layer, and I like doing that, but for some reason on these punches, I like going all the way to the edge and then cutting them off. It's kind of a fun look. But for the ribbon, I really want to make sure that it is tight to the card because it is on that edge. So I'm going to put it down on my two ends. I'm going to put this tear tape, and that way that ribbon is going to be super tight to the edge. When people put it in and out of the envelope, it's not going anywhere. It's not going to start rising up with the envelope. I know probably you know what I'm talking about if you're a card maker. That's happened to you, right? And as you're trying to put a card into an envelope, it just keeps rising up, and the knot keeps getting ruined, or the bow keeps slipping. So I'm going right on that edge, and I'm going to do kind of a faux bow where I'm not going to go all the way around. I'm going to tie that bow separately, which is why I'm leaving a gap here. Otherwise, if I knew I wasn't going to do that, then I would just put that tear tape all the way across. So I'm leaving my gap so that I can tie a bow around it. Hopefully this makes sense. Okay, so it's very tight. And then when I put it down on my card, I want it to still be very tight. So I'm going to, on the side that has the ribbon, I'm going to use that tear tape again. I just think when you're adding ribbon, sometimes it's worthwhile to just add a little extra adhesive. Okay, so that's not going anywhere. Then in the middle, I'll go ahead and use my regular. There we go, and see, that's very tight. It is not going to go anywhere. I've got it all the way to the edge, and when you put this in and out of an envelope, it's not going to move. That ribbon is stuck. So then we can just slip this underneath and tie a bow. And then I'm going to go ahead, and you can slide it over too because it's not really attached. See what kind of space you need. And then I'm going to stick my little giraffe. I hope you enjoyed these little punch-shaped backgrounds. I hope that you will, or die-cut shaped backgrounds in the case of the leaves. I hope that you'll try it. And if you do, please consider joining me on my Beth's Paper Cuts idea sharing group on Facebook. It's a private group, so you can share things on it and not have to worry about if you don't want friends and families necessarily to see the card you make, because maybe you're going to mail it to them. Or maybe you're just trying to get some ideas and you don't want to share them just quite yet with everybody. So it's a private group. Only people in the group can see the posts, but it's a fun place to share ideas. Sometimes I have challenges. There's that sloth. Oh, you can do the inside of your giraffe as well. So I think that that sponging really made a difference. What do you think? I like it. And then here on this turtle, I think the sponging really brought out those shapes as well. So take a look at these shaped background ideas and come up with a fun shape punch that you can use. Thanks so much for watching, and consider that Back on Your Feet stamp set really cute and a good one to have in your collection. Thanks for watching. Bye.